Distinguished chief guests, guest of honor, honorable Supreme Court judges, High Court judges, our distinguished guests on dais, mediators of India and all other countries of the world who have attended this conference. I have the honor to introduce to you an esteemed and distinguished personality whose career is shining with academic brilliance and professional finesse. After graduating in science from Government College of Chandigarh in 1974, our guest of honor attained the LLB degree in 1977 and LLM degree with a prestigious gold medal in 1979 from Punjab University. He then started law practice mainly in Punjab and Haryana High Court, Himachal Pradesh High Court, and Supreme Court of India. He was appointed as Additional Advocate General, Punjab, in January 1992, and then Senior Standing Counsel of Union Territories, Chandigarh. In February 1995, he was designated as a senior advocate. He acted as a standing counsel for the universities of area, corporate bodies, and large number of companies and cooperative organizations. He was elevated to the bench of the High Court of Punjab and Haryana in February 1999, acted as acting Chief Justice of the said High Court twice in 2008 and 2009, heading a 3-judge bench of Punjab and Haryana High Court. He decided a case involving definition of Sikh. He held that religion must be perceived as it is and not as another would like it to be. This was a most relevant judgment in the present context in our country. Our guest of honor was appointed as Chief Justice of Uttarakhand at Nainital on 29th November 2009 and transferred as Chief Justice of Karnataka High Court on 8th August 2010. On his appointment as a judge of the Supreme Court of India, he assumed office as a judge of the Supreme Court on September 13, 2011. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to present to you one of the most distinguished judges of the Supreme Court of India, Justice Mr. Jagdish Singh Kehar.
May I commence with my extreme gratitude and thank you to Mr. Niranjan Bhatt for the very kind introduction. I've never seen an introduction like that before. Honorable judges, my colleague, my senior colleague, Justice Thakur, my other colleagues, Chief Justice of the Delhi High Court, other judges of the Delhi High Court, attorneys, alternative dispute resolution practitioners, representatives of mediation and arbitration professional organizations, international corporate representatives, speakers on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Whilst I was outside, Laila Ullapalli reminded me I am a trained mediator. I was in absolute denial. I'm not even a mediator. And I was wondering, what is it that the American Bar Association felt to invite me to address you all? If there is anything in mediation that I can be proud of, may I say, I can describe it as persuaded court mediation, where parties in a litigation appear before you and you compel them to settle their dispute. That's all that I know about mediation. The first introduction to mediation, when you try and understand what mediation is all about, is when you learn that mediation started with being a marginal activity of limited significance and turned out to be a very successful dispute resolution mechanism. Oh, then you understand that must be for the West. The question is, would we be able to translate the success and use this value-added system for settling disputes in Asia and the Pacific? I am quite sure this is today a first important step towards this direction. And I'm quite sure that your deliberations over the next 2 days will be very creative. Having confessed that my knowledge on mediation is limited, I must first just accept that whatever I say today is my personal thought on mediation. It's a thought, if you consider appropriate, you will debate during the next 2 days of deliberations. In expressing these thoughts, I will make a little groundwork and express my view. Traditionally, mediation has been very successful in Christian, Islamic, and Hindu cultures. Mediation was successful because it was exercised in a homogeneity. Community living over the years, in the harmony of alikes, has changed. There is now a racial and cultural amalgamation. The amalgamation which we have in Asia is different from the amalgamation that we have in the Pacific. And both these are far, far different from the amalgamation that we have in the West. It is therefore that when you speak about mediation with reference to Asia and the Pacific, you can't just accept the success story of the West and implement it here. There are a lot of works which suggest that culture always remains a superficial overlay that covers a uniform human nature. Culture is deep within, and you must understand culture before you attempt to mediate between parties. My suggestion, and my first suggestion is, in today's world, it's a combine of individual behavior and generic human culture which will result in a success story in mediation between disputing parties. The summit may therefore examine whether it needs to introduce culture into its programs so as to make them effective in this region, the Asia and the Pacific. Another small issue. We all know that trade and commerce are indispensable driving forces for economic growth. In 2013, the Asia Pacific attracted more than 550 billion US dollars in FDI. In 2014, data reveals there were 8,000 FDI projects. With capital inputs of approximately $450 billion, creating 1.5 million jobs and impacting more than 5,000 companies. By some estimates, the Asia Pacific is likely to cater to more than 50% of the global GDP in trade and commerce by 2050. Now the effect. The growth of trade and commerce is going to see a lot of international cross-border disputes. The business community is bound to look for cost-effective and timely means of justice. At the moment, in this region, for cross-border disputes, arbitration is the favored choice. I am very clear in my mind that mediation is far, far more cost-effective and timely. I am also very sure that over the years, the business community will realize that it must routinely attempt mediation before it goes into litigation or arbitration. Now the effect. What do we have? What is the infrastructure? You must debate today, tomorrow, and thereafter. How do we create infrastructure for professional mediation? It is this infrastructure which will cater to the needs of the world in this region over the years. You must debate whether this infrastructure must come from the state or it must be a privately generated infrastructure. There is a second facet to the same. Whenever a commercial organization crosses borders for trade, it looks for a harmonious business relationship. In the absence of harmony, when you are cross-border, disputes can be highly agitating. Arbitration and litigation lead to finality of disputes. They may win a party a case, but they may lose the business opportunity forever. It is therefore the same suggestion over again. The summit must discuss the creation of infrastructure for professional mediation. I do not know what are the parameters of your discussion in respect to cross-border disputes. I would like you to discuss, if you consider appropriate, that even family disputes can be cross-border. The Indian experience on the question of international marriages is that there are a large number of Indians who have gone abroad and married there. There are a large number of professional couples who have moved to other countries for better professional careers. There are a large number of Indian Muslims with spouses in Pakistan, and a number of Tamilian Indians with spouses in Sri Lanka. The Indian experience is that when there is a disputation between international marriages, not only do the spouses suffer, but even their children. This is because there is a division of determination between two jurisdictions. The possibility of two jurisdictions makes the matter more complicated and highly aggressive and very expensive. I understand that there is a forum in Geneva which deals with international marriage disputes. I would like you to consider those during the course of your deliberations. Insofar as I am concerned, I'm an extremely impressed person on the issue of mediation. I am amazed because I read the other day that the International Conference on International Army Disputes, Conflicts, recorded a conclusion that 80% of the armed conflicts during the last 20 years came to be settled by a peace agreement. In my understanding, a peace agreement is nothing but mediation. The United Nations General Assembly has recognized mediation as a powerful means of dispute resolution, not only in conflicts, but also for resolving them before the conflict arises. This is the strength of mediation. I have been allotted 10 minutes by Geeta Ravindran. I suppose my 10 minutes are over. Before I close, may I thank all the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. I thank you all for having traveled from all over the globe and to have come to attend this seminar. On my own behalf and on behalf of my colleague, senior colleague, Justice Thakur, welcome you all to India and hope you all have a wonderful experience and reach wonderful conclusions. Thank you all for a very patient and kind hearing.
Thank you very much indeed, sir, for that special address. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the privilege in requesting our honorable chief guest, our guest of honor, and our distinguished dignitaries on the dais to kindly do the honors of releasing the summit brochure. The summit brochures of Association of Indian Mediators and American Bar Association. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the brochure for Association of Indian Mediators. Please put your hands together. And the brochure of American Bar Association. Can we have a group photograph? Requesting all our dignitaries on the dais to have a group photograph first with the brochure of Association of Indian Mediators. The first one, yes, sir. Once again, let's put our hands together for the release of the summit brochures of American Bar Association and Association of Indian Mediators. Thank you very much indeed for doing the honors. And now, ladies and gentlemen, may I invite Mr. Sri Ram Panchu, Vice President, Association of Indian Mediators, to kindly introduce and invite our honorable chief guest.
Mr. Justice Thakur, Mr. Justice Kehar, Mr. Silkinat, Mr. Sorel, Geeta Ravindra, my colleagues from AIM, Mr. Bhatt, Mr. Chandiok, distinguished judges, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Justice Thakur has given me permission to say one thing before I introduce him. And that is to say that when we started mediation in 2005, we didn't have anybody to train mediators. But we were fortunate. We got a very experienced trainer who came out from the United States to train successive batches of mediators, sensitize judges, and give us training manuals, which we still use. In the foundation of Indian mediation, there is a cornerstone dedicated to Geeta Ravindra. Please give her a round of applause. Mr. Justice Thakur was born on the 4th of January 1952. He practiced a wide variety of law in Jammu and Kashmir, became a senior advocate in 1990, appointed a judge of the High Court on 16 February 1994. He has served as a High Court judge in Karnataka, in Delhi, Chief Justice of the Punjab and Haryana High Court, and elevated as judge of the Supreme Court on 17/11/2009. He is today the ranking judge just next to the Chief Justice of India. He has seen 5 courts from the north to the south of this country, and he has served 21 years as a judge. He has more time to go and more responsibilities which will be placed on him. There are just 2 cases of his which I want to mention. He dealt with the river Ganga. our most sacred river. And he said, there is no gainsaying that for the people of this country, it has significance not only in the spiritual and mythological sense, but also in material terms, for it sustains millions who are settled on its banks. He said it comforts millions of souls. And he asked the central government, he said, what are you doing to clean up the river and to prevent further pollution? He said, yours is a story of failure, frustration, and disaster. If we let you carry on in your way, you will take another 50 years to clean up the river. Fortunately, that activity is now monitored by his bench, and the government has to answer frequently. So this country will see a purer, holiest of its rivers. To many people, there is something possibly just a shade less important than religion in this country, and that's the game of cricket. It didn't take 50 years for that to be cleaned up. Justice Thakur did it in one landmark judgment, where he ruled against a conflict of interest in the sport, and he set the course for the future. Fairness, not only in the game, but in the administration of the game. And he said public policy is not a static concept. What is public good and public interest cannot be opposed to public policy and vice versa. In his court, references to mediation are common. And the phrase he uses is, sit with each other and sort out the difference. He also told two states to do the same, stressing the importance of peace and tranquility. In his speech at the Zakir Hussain Memorial Lecture on representation, inclusion, and governance, he said, and I quote, we may fight over masjid and mandir, but we have lived together. We are brothers. I have seen that when a fight takes place between brothers, it is a vicious kind of fight. But that does not mean they're not brothers. When it comes to a third party, the brothers will come together to defend each other. And he gave an example of inclusiveness. He spoke about himself. He said, I do not know Sanskrit too much, nor Hindi, because I grew up in a state where Urdu was the official language. That's in Kashmir. When I relocated to Jammu, my father encouraged me to continue learning Hindi, Urdu. I was the only non-Muslim in my class to know Urdu, which got people to say, tum to Musalman ho. And he said, isn't this an example of inclusion? Inclusiveness is part of our culture. I spoke to leaders at the bar in the different states where he served. And what they told me tallied perfectly with what Socrates said are the qualities of a judge. To hear courteously, to answer wisely, to consider soberly, and to decide impartially. They named another quality, the quality of a judge to be a gentleman. And I will add one. There is an equity which dilutes the rigor of the law to get a more just result. And often this is an intellectual exercise. But there is another kind of equity, a special equity, an equity which is guided by compassion. And when you have a judge with legal knowledge at his fingertips, possessed of these Socratic qualities, and with whom equity and compassion blend seamlessly with the law, you get a very special kind of judge. To this international conference, I, as an Indian, am proud to give you, as your keynote speaker today, one of our finest judges, the Honorable Mr. Justice Tirath Singh Thakur. I have some more hot water.
Yeah, you can put some hot water. My esteemed brother Justice Kher, Mr. Jim Silkenet, Mr. Reynold Soriel, Ms. Geeta Ravindran, my esteemed brother judges Justice San, Justice Sikri, Justice Lokur, Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, Madam Rohini, judges from the Delhi High Court, former Chief Justice of Delhi High Court, distinguished delegates to this conference, ladies and gentlemen. I consider this to be a matter of great privilege for me to have been invited to deliver this keynote address. Court-annexed mediation is a relatively recent phenomenon in this country. It appeared on the judicial landscape for the first time in this country in the year 2005, when the first court-annexed mediation center was set up in Chennai with Justice Karju as the Chief Justice of the High Court of Madras. I remember when in late 2004 or early 2005, Justice Karju was transferred as Chief Justice of the High Court of Delhi. He pushed the proposal for setting up of a court-annexed mediation center in Delhi High Court also. I happened to be in Delhi High Court at that time. And like many of other colleagues of mine at the bench, a sizable section of the bar in Delhi, including, if I may say, Mr. Chandihok, the then president of the Bar Association, and Mr. J.P. Singh, who was perhaps the vice president, expressed serious misgivings about the utility of such a center and about the efficacy of mediation itself as an effective tool for conflict resolution. But Justice Karju did not give up. In an attempt to introduce the concept more effectively and articulately, he invited Mr. Shriram Panchu, whom I consider to be the pioneer of mediation movement in this country, to Delhi, and to explain the benefits of mediation as a process, and also to explain as to why the apprehensions of the bar and the misgivings of the bench were wholly misplaced. Mr. Panchu joined us, and I still remember in the central hall of the Delhi High Court, we had a function. I could see the reluctance of the members of the bar, including Mr. Chandihok. I still remember the address which Mr. Chandihok delivered at that time. Very aggressively, he said, no mediation is possible in Delhi unless you associate the bar. And if mediation is to take off here, it is only with the help of bar and bar alone. We got the feeling that if the bar is not cooperative, this attempt to introduce mediation may not succeed. But thanks to the persuasive skills of Mr. Panchu, we found that not only did he persuade his detractors to fall in line with his thinking, but some of them became his great admirers. The rest is history. Delhi High Court got a mediation center, and that center today, I can say, is one of the finest centers that this country has. The success of that center, I think, is all because of the efforts of the bar. The judges supervise the center, but the center's activities are all managed by the bar and the bar alone. Mr. Chandyok was right when he said it can be a success only if you give a free hand to the bar to manage the center. And I'm sure in Delhi as elsewhere, it is the bar alone who has a free hand in managing that center. And that is the reason why these centers, not only in Delhi but in Punjab, in practically all other states, have come up and are doing extremely well. My brother Justice Kher mentioned about infrastructure about these centers.